Okay, here we go. Hello, good evening, and get into the chat. Please, por favor, or whatever. Okay, tonight there's not going to be so much of playing. I might demonstrate a little bit, but there's a tremendous amount of explaining to do. What I've done is I took a sticking pattern and I made it as written, and then the next measure, instead of, hey, Paul, how are you? Instead of, you have the PDFs, right, Paul? Like I said, I'm going to be doing a lot of explaining tonight. So, I want to wait a little bit, if you don't mind, to see who else is going to be coming in. There's you and somebody else so far, and I'm a little early. So what I need is to have some people come into the chat so I don't have to re-explain all of the stuff because it's a little confusing. And I hope I made the presentation on the PDFs correct, which I think I did, but it's very difficult to explain. A little confusing, Paul, the PDFs. There's like, what I did was I gave you the permutations of the sticking pattern. And from the permutations, I did the first one as something to play funky. Now, what we're going to do is there's actually, let's see, there's a 16 times 4. That's 64 variations you're going to be getting. That's a lot. And that's only one sticking pattern. And actually, instead of 64, you could have 128 because you're going to do it left-handed. So there's a lot of explaining to do here tonight. So I hope you can bear with it. Hey, Mike, how are you? I'm going to give you the explanation, Paul, in a second. So what I'm doing right now is I'm waiting for the chat to populate a little bit so I don't have to re-explain it. If you take permutations of sticking pattern part 1, you'll see the first one starts on the 1. That's the actual sticking pattern. So if you go to the second line, it says E. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start the permutation. I'm going to leave the 1 out and start on the right, which is the E, and continue all the way to the duh of 4. Do we understand that? So that's the permutation. That's where it begins. I presented the first guy. That's the actual sticking pattern. Then the second line is a permutation. The permutation now, I started to write the same sticking pattern now, but this time I started on the E and went all the way through until the duh of 4. I did the same thing on the 3rd, 4th, and 4th line, the and the duh. Do we understand this so far? I need that from you guys. You understand? I don't know if you want to call this, there's a couple terms that's been used. I just say permutate, but some people say displacement. I don't know, or metric modulation. I don't know what you want to call it, but I'm going to call it permutate. I permutated the sticking patterns all the way to the duh of the 4, and you have them. And what I did, all right, the first guy, if you go to the first page of Linear Concepts Part 2, A1, you'll see what I did was I've given you the sticking pattern. You're not sure? I'm going to explain it again, Mike. This is not easy to explain because I know what I did, and for me to project it outward to everybody, it's a little bit more difficult, and maybe you missed something. But look at Linear Concepts Part 2, A1. that is the original sticking pattern. So what I did, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. Those 4 lines are the grid. Okay, the 1, the E, the and the duh. The second guy starts on the E. The third guy starts on the and the fourth guy starts on the duh. And I made all of the sticking patterns with the grid. So what I did, I mean, it's a little confusing. This is the beginning of about 3 months worth of lessons. You will be getting the same sticking pattern, but all these other variations, which gives that same sticking pattern a whole lot of different feels and different colors. It's not easy, but once you go through this whole concept or this approach, you're going to be one heck of a funky player. So what I don't want to do, okay, is jump right to the actual playing. I need to have questions. Michael and Paul, I knew you would understand it, but there's a couple other people in this watching the video, and besides that, the video is going to be recorded. So with it being recorded, I need to explain in detail what I'm doing. Absolutely, Mike, you got it. That's exactly correct. Each line starts on, for example, on the first one, it's the original one. The second one, I started on the E. Now, we're not talking about the grid, we're talking about the sticking. It's the same sticking, but it starts on the E. And it's a whole different thing. I go to line number 3, it starts on the and. I go to line number 4, it starts on the duh. The next line on the 2, then the E, then the and, then the duh, until I get to the duh of 4. Now, that's a lot of different things. And that's exactly right, Mike. You follow each pattern starts in the beginning of each measure on either the 1, the E, the and, or the duh. Then it goes to the 2, the E, the and, and the duh. So that's a lot to absorb. And there's a lot of work here. I don't know, Paul, you have to quit your job. Mike, you have to quit your job. Stay home and practice 10 hours a day, take a nap, have a cup of coffee, and come back and practice again. I'm assuming you gentlemen like this. Now, actually, the linear concept number part 2, it shouldn't be that. It should be part 2. It should be 2 L's. I'm sorry, I made a mistake there. A1 is you already have this, but I want to keep an order in here. The next one you're going to get is linear concepts part 2, A2. So on and so forth. And like I said, you want to be able to do this right-handed and left-handed. So you're going to get very, very funky. Do we understand it so far to this point, gentlemen? This is a lot of work, a tremendous amount of work, writing this out. And if you think playing this makes you dizzy, try writing it out. No. All right, let's get that. The left should not sound different than the right. It's presented to you as the first way is the right hand is on the hi-hat. The left hand, let me put the snare on, it's on the snare. It's either an accent or a ghost note. So you have the voices are different. That's what we're doing. Let me play the first one. That's on Linear Concepts Part 2, A1. Now, I'm not going to play the sticking pattern because that's simple. It's just a stick control book. but this is not from the stick control book. The sticking pattern is something I just came up with a figure, a baseline, and I'm going to present the baseline to you as well. But the first guy, now you have, for example, number one, you have the hi-hat, the right hand, and then an accent on the dot. So you have, yeah, yeah, three. And let me go back to the beginning. This is very, very difficult. I get very, very confused. Well, you can't play these on one surface. Why would you? If you're going to play the sticking pattern, Mike, on one surface, yes, the right, the left, and the right should sound the same. It's like doing stick control book. You're coming down from the one point. Yeah, they sound the same. But now I'm taking that pattern and trying to make it funky. 1, E, and 2, E. All right, here we go. 1, E, and 2, E, and 3, E, and 4, E. Come on, metronome. Don't mess up on me. There you go. You get it, Mike? Why are you working on one surface only? I gave you the key, Mike. The key's on top of the page. You have the bass drum, the snare drum, a ghost note, hi-hat, and the hi-hat with the hand. This is not for one surface. The sticking pattern, yeah, you could use it as an exercise, but you have all the stick control to do like that. This is for a drum set application. The permutations, yeah, you can put on one surface. They're just a demonstration of what an explanation rather, and a demonstration of what I did with the sticking. Now we're taking it to another zone. We take the sticking, original sticking, and we add the grid. If you look at line 1, it starts on the 1. If you look at line 2, it starts on the E. The grid. You look at line 3, it starts on the and line 4 starts on the duh. You understand that? Don't get confused, because this is very confusing. And like I said, all right, the first line is one surface. It's just, you don't have to, you're playing it on one surface. It's what you're using. You're using that sticking pattern. That sticking pattern is starting on the 1. Now, the next one you're going to get, if you go back to the first page, you're going to get it starting on the E. But okay, you have to come and get it. Just kidding. If you want the PDF, it's not a problem. You have to email me. Let me put it in here. Come on, computer. Who's this? Denito? Denito, this is your first time here. What you want to do is email me, and I will send you the PDF. It's not a problem. Okay? And just to make you up on the agenda, my lessons are Monday and Wednesday. Monday at 1 p.m., Tuesday and Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and also on Wednesday, 1 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, what I'm doing on the 1 p.m. lessons is one surface. I'm doing a lot of explaining, a lot of the drum language, hand technique, and I'm working on the drum pad. Now, what I try and do is at the 8:30 lesson, I try to gear it up towards the more seasoned, more experienced players. Okay? So you just email me, I'll put you on my email list, mailing list, and you'll get a PDF for every lesson. And you'll get the agenda for the week. Okay? That's Denito. Where are you from, Denito? I love that word permutate or displacement. I don't know. Where are you from, Denito? That sounds like either Italy, Portugal, or South America. You're probably in America, but originally that name, it sounds like a Bison. Okay, Mike, you understand it. Paul, you understand it. You live in Atlanta. Okay. Where is your originally from? Are you from America, or your grandparents or parents from another country? Because that's a Denito is either an Italian name or a Spanish name. But it really don't matter. You come to the lessons, we'll have a great time. I learn from everybody, and everybody learns from me. So we all are a family of students. We're all at different places in our lives with the drumming, but we're all on the same journey. We're all on the same journey, and that's to learn. Okay, that's good. All right, you're welcome to come anytime. These lessons are going to be free for a while, but come September sometime, we're going back to my website, which is going to cost. And it's only $19.99 per month. You get 2, 4, 6, 8 lessons plus PDFs, which is not bad. Okay, now, do you want me to re-explain this to you, gentlemen? What I did in the beginning, like Michael and Paul, and now it's Denito? And who else is in here? Okay, anyway, I'm going to explain it. And the term permutate means a lot in this case. The PDF, all right, you have Mike and Paul. I'm sorry, Denito, but, you know, when you email me, you'll get the PDF. So bear with this and try to understand what I'm doing. I took one measure in 16th note formation. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. And I put a sticking pattern to that count. Now, above the sticking pattern, you have a key. We're using the bass drum, the hi-hat with the foot, the right hand on the hi-hat when needed, the snare drum as an accent or a ghost note. So that's the elements that we're working with. Now, what I did, I applied the grid. If you don't understand what the grid is, here's a good way to permutate the grid. You're going to count 16ths. 1 E and a, 2 E and the, 3 E and the, 4 E and the. So now, I'm going to permutate, all right, which means to move over one. So on the first count, and I should count staccato. Staccato meaning short sounding instead of 1 E and the. I'm making the sounds come from me short sounding. I'm not trying to be stiff, but I'm trying to be on the money. 1 E and a. So the first part of the grid is a 4-beat element. So the first part of the grid is on the 1. 1 E and the. Now I'm going to move that hand clap to the next note of the count. So I have now 1 E and a, 2 E and a. Then over to the end. 1 E and the, 2 E and the, 3 E and the, and now to the da of 4. And I keep going over the cycle again. I loop it over. 1 E and the, 2 E and the, 3 E and the, 4 E and the, 1 E and the, 2. in reality, I'm just bringing the grid to a one measure phrase. But if I was to extend it, that one would be nothing except the count. I don't want to confuse you, but that's the basic element of the grid. Do you understand that? Who's that? Denito. Michael and Paul, I know you guys understand that. But I need to explain that because I don't want to lose, not his interest, but what I'm explaining. I don't want Denito to not understand it. So, for example, if I was playing just straight 16ths, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a, and I say, okay, I want to play my bass drum as the grid. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. Now, besides the grid, I'm going to bring these to you with the bione. All right, and besides the bione, the samba pattern really don't work too well. But we're going to try it. And we're going to use the 3-2 and the 2-3 clave with the bottom. So when I'm playing, for example, the first guy, let me get to the page. Like I said, gentlemen, not too much playing tonight. It's just going to be a lot of explaining. And I want you to be sure, because now you have the PDFs, and I want you to go forward with them. And again, we're going to do them slowly. So, just to make you understand, instead of one surface, the one surface is on the snare drum, or the drum pad, or, I mean, you could do anything you want with it, but I want to maintain it to one surface. So, the sticking pattern would be 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. That's the foundation of where we're taking everything from with this particular exercise or approach. So now, the first guy is going to be the actual grid to the da. But now, whenever I have a left, I'm going to use my left foot. Whenever I have a right, I'm going to use my bass drum. So if I do that, if I take the second line, and it's telling me, if you understand the key, it's going to be 1, E, and da. So on the 1, I use the hi-hat. 1, E, and da. Now on the 2, we're going to go to the E, and I'm following the sticking pattern. 2, E, and so now we're going to do 1 and 2. 1, E, and 2, E, and and then we go to 3. Now you see how I moved the bass drum and the hi-hat? Because on the first part of the sticking, it was a left. So I made that my hi-hat. On the E of the second downbeat, it's a right. So I made it my bass drum. And on the and of the third downbeat is a left. So I made it my hi-hat. And on the fourth downbeat, I used my hi-hat because there's a left. Now, I'm following the sticking pattern. Every time there's a right, if it's not on the bottom, it's assigned to the hi-hat. Every time it's a left, if it's not on the bottom, it's either an accent or a ghost note. Do we understand that, Mike and Paul and Denito? Yes, no, maybe, by chance. Happy New Year. Do we all understand where I'm coming from with that? Now, this is the simple one. When we start on the E, it's going to be the same sticking pattern, but we're moving it over to the E. We're starting on the E. That's where it's going to get confusing. Hold on. Now, these are great exercises. I could actually write a book about, I don't know, 10 inches thick on all of the variations and permutations. It's just unbelievable what that stick control can do. And you have somebody who interprets it that way and approaches it this way. I think that's a good thing. Now, like I said in the beginning of the lesson, be honest with you, I am totally exhausted and dizzy. You know, I don't mean dizzy like a person being dizzy, kind of unhinged or whatever. What I mean is by writing these, it took a long time to write these couple pages. And they did make me dizzy. I had to check and recheck and recheck and recheck until I got them correct. They're going to make me dizzy. They're going to make you dizzy. And they're unbelievable. You go through this concept, Mike, Paul, and Danito, constantly. You know, we're not applying it to any particular music. We're applying it for a developmental thing for you to develop funk. While you play these at a variety of tempos, you're going to start to loosen up and a lot of different doors will open up for you. Do we understand all of that? Now, wow, have 5 minutes. Do we have any questions before I close up? Because my next lesson will be Monday, 1 p.m., one surface. And we're going to take the turnarounds part 2. So you seasoned players, if you want, come back at 1 o'clock Monday, or it will be recorded. Subscribe to my channel, and you'll know that they've been uploaded, so you could view it. You'll get another PDF Monday for that particular turnarounds part 2. I did this afternoon Joe Morello's Table of Time. I've had a lot of requests for that. So let's put it up front now because I'm going to be closing down. And I told everybody in the beginning of the lesson there's not going to be so much playing, a whole lot of explaining. And I hope that you understand what I explained. If not, now's the time to ask questions. Because we will be playing these with 2 other sheets come Monday. And you're quitting work tomorrow. Wow, okay. How about you, Paul? And Danito, you're going to quit work too. It's just unbelievable. I mean, we're talking right-handed and left-handed. It's just a whole different thing, man. You could go out and buy any funk book, and especially like the Mike Clark Funk Drumming or David Garibaldi's The Code of Funk. There's so many great books out there. But what I'm trying to explain, or I'm going to explain, is everything does come from the stick control book. No way in heck somebody could deny that. I'm not belittling or being condescending to any of those authors. Those authors who wrote those books have inspired me to hit this concept. You did? We're going to have to talk about sewing this thing up in November for the camp. Okay? Michael and Paul, and now maybe Danito might. What happened to my computer? It's shut down. Well, you have to go to work, Paul. You know, you have to pay your mortgage, your car payment, your bank loans, your student loans, or whatever. You could do this 2 hours a day somewhere. Just your extracurricular thing at school, being a coach for this or being a coach for that. You might want to reconsider doing that. And when does school start? Tomorrow, huh? Okay. Paul, the last week, actually the day after Thanksgiving, the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, will you be interested in coming to New Jersey for the camp? I know Michael is. Okay. No response? No questions? Paul is considering it. Okay, any questions? 1, 2, 3. And again, like I said, not very much playing tonight. But there will be Monday. All right, well, we'll come up with something for you and Michael. I know you can, Mike. Anyway, gentlemen, have a great night, and we'll see everybody at 1 p.m. Monday. And if you can't make Monday, it will be recorded. All right, Paul, it's not a problem. We'll do something. You're welcome, Mike. You're welcome, Paul. Benito, email me. I'll send you the PDFs. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. If not, I apologize. Okay, gentlemen.